Super Bowl 57 is set. Eagles, Chiefs, Andy Reid versus Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes, the Kelce brothers, storylines on storylines in the big game. This is the Locked On Podcast Network ultimate crossover, Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs your first listen each and every day. It's the ultimate Super Bowl crossover, and today's episode is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 6 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money now on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code LOCKEDON. I'm Louis DiBiase, one of two on Locked On Eagles, joined by my co-host Gino Camilleri. We've also got the guys from Locked On Chiefs, Chris Clark and Ryan Tracy. What a game we've got coming up Sunday in Arizona. Eagles, Chiefs, the two number one seeds that have the exact same amount of points per game, both 16-3, both have MVP finalist quarterbacks. Fellas, what a game. I can't wait for this one.
It's going to be a blast, and I think we're going to have fun just talking it through. But for the fans, this might be, I think, one of the most evenly matched Super Bowls in quite a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's hard-pressed to look at these rosters and say that this isn't going to be a fun football game for the neutral fans. And as somebody who's put on some good Super Bowls over the last 5 years between our two teams, we at least owe it to America to put out some fun games for them.
Both teams looking for their second ring over the last 6 seasons, but feels a little bit different for the Eagles compared to the Chiefs. We'll get into that and more. We've got storylines for you on today's show, matchups to look out for, predictions. Guys, I want to start first with the storylines. And obviously there's some that are going to be played to death, and they have been for the last 2 weeks, but probably rightfully so. You could start with those, maybe an underrated storyline. I'll start over with Locked On Chiefs. We'll start with Ryan. Ryan, what's a storyline that you're most excited to see play out on Sunday in Arizona between the Eagles and Chiefs?
It's just, how do you overcome adversity? And I think the quarterbacks in particular exemplify that in two very different ways. I was a big Jalen fan coming out, and I think he had to overcome some of that stereotype in his initial evaluation. You know, obviously had to overcome where he was and what the situation was last season. And I think that perseverance to get to this point, to have the team grow around him is really encouraging. Patrick, on the other hand, has been to the mountaintop, right? Had to retool, had to lose his biggest weapon, and oh no, what will we ever do, right? Well, Patrick's Patrick, and he had to persevere through that. So I think for the leaders of both of these teams, it's a great matchup to see who takes the final step to get that ring.
And then we'll go over to Gino. Gino, what's a storyline that you just can't wait for on Sunday?
It's not so much a master versus Padawan, just a great versus a young and up-and-coming coach, in my opinion, and somebody that both of these franchises have a lot of history with. 5 NFC championships, 5 AFC championships played in. Andy Reid has done it time and time again, and Nick Sirianni, just 2 years ago, was the laughingstock of the National Football League in his initial press conference. Well, who's laughing now, NFL? This guy has taken this team to the promised land. We'll see if he could slay that ultimate beast in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But the coaches, and not just them, you have Eric Bieniemy, you have Jonathan Gannon, coaches galore in this one. This is going to be fun to see how those guys did Monday through Saturday. Or, well, now 2 Mondays through Saturday game planning for this one.
Quarterbacks, coaches. Chris Clark, what else you got for this game? What are you thinking?
You know, really quick, as what Ryan said, I like Jalen Hurts when he came out, but I think the funny thing that you didn't mention up top was Jalen Hurts is in his 3rd year. Patrick Mahomes won the first Super Bowl in his 3rd year. So a little bit more of a commonality there. We'll talk about that later and where we're going with our picks. But one of the biggest storylines to me that continues to be a huge deal for Kansas City is the play of the rookie class. What they've been able to do with their rookies. You know, you look at all the back end guys, the 3 corners that started basically and played the entire game, the last game, because L'Jarius Sneed went out with an injury. You have Brian Cook, who didn't start but played a pivotal role playing as the 3rd safety, tipping a pass and getting, helping Joshua Williams get one of his interceptions in the playoffs. You just look at this rookie class and what they've been able to do for Kansas City. Then you flip it over to the other side of the ball, and you have a guy in Isaiah Pacheco who has stepped up as the running back for Kansas City. I think that's huge as well. And Sky Moore, even though he hasn't had a great season, he hasn't been extremely productive. He had a huge game against the Bengals and 2 huge punt returns. One got called back, but one got him in position to win the game at the end. this rookie class for Kansas City has been phenomenal, and I think that's one of the biggest stories going into this game.
No, for sure, Chris. Makes a lot of sense. I feel like you even look on the Eagles side of things. Obviously, you got some guys that did it before, right? Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. But you mentioned, Jalen Hurts in his third year. You've got Miles Sanders, who's still on a rookie contract. Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown's only 25. This is Dallas Goedert's first deep run into the playoffs this far, at least, getting into the Final Four and now the Super Bowl. There's a lot of new pieces as well that, again, the Eagles won a Super Bowl 5 years ago this past week, but it's a brand new looking team. So I'm as excited to see how the young guys step up for the Eagles. And I'm confident because even though some of those players didn't have that first ring and haven't won Super Bowls and made deep runs on other teams, they did it at the college level. So I'm feeling very confident. Another storyline for me, I'm looking at the trenches. This Eagles team has the opportunity to go down as one of the, and already they are, but they could top it off with a ring. This could be one of the best group of offensive and defensive linemen, truly, that I've ever seen. And I want to see if they're going to be the reason, if they can cap off this memorable season with a win because of your elite offensive line, because of your elite pass rush. I think, and it's cliche, but it's true. It's talked to death for a reason. If you win the trench battle, especially in this game, guys, I think you're going to come out with a win. Gino, what do you think about that?
I think I would be hard-pressed to argue with you on that one. But at the same time, these teams, coming from the fingerprints of Andy Reid, both specialize in one area, and that's the interior pressure. So you look at the build of Chris Jones and a near replica and the guys that they have on the other side there in Philadelphia. Both of these teams have weapons up front, and both of the interior of the offensive line, I think, are built relatively similarly. I think you would have to give the advantage to Philadelphia, and Hasaan Reddick going against those two tackles, wherever they line him up, add Josh Sweat into that equation as well. I said this last week, guys, about Kyle Shanahan, that going into that meeting room, he should have said, Hasaan Reddick cannot ruin this game for us, and yet he did. I would expect Andy Reid to completely take him out of the game. That's a very Belichickian way of Andy Reid to make sure that he doesn't lose at the hands of the Eagles' best player. But both of these offensive lines have played well down the stretch. Both of these defensive line have gotten pressure. Both of these quarterbacks, Pat, a little less with that ankle injury, but both of them can make you pay if they get outside. So contain for both of these teams, I think, is going to be very, very important going into this game. Because if Jalen Hurts or Pat Mahomes goes off schedule, well, you're going to see probably somebody in the back of the end zone.
Ryan, I got to ask you too, before we take a break here, I feel like this is more of a legacy game for the Chiefs than the Eagles. Obviously, Jason Kelce, Cox, Graham, Lane, they could get their second ring, Howie Roseman as well. But for the Chiefs, obviously, you look at past dynasties, even the Patriots, the dynasty was really quarterback and head coach, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. I feel like if Mahomes and Reid can get that second one, that'll really start to make this team look like that next version of the Patriots. I feel like it's definitely a legacy game for Kansas City, of course, being in the last 5 conference titles as well.
Yeah, that's true. And I agree with you in particular. Should you get a second win, that kind of sets you up to have those eras within your own era, just like the Patriots did. Yeah. Maybe obviously a little less so because the head coach and quarterback have changed in Philadelphia, but it's also continuation. I'm glad you brought up Howie Roseman because I think across the league, for those of us who follow front offices everywhere, like his reputation stands for itself. But for a lot of fans, a lot of fan bases that don't follow the team, this is really 2 different ways to build teams that are set to not only for the Chiefs to maybe take that dynasty word seriously, but for both franchises to move forward, competing against each other for the next few years in the way that they're set up. That's a big one. I think my favorite storyline that we've all neglected to say is it's Kelce versus Kelce, and I'm ready for it.
Of course, yeah. We didn't even talk about the brothers. Chris Clark, before we take a break, any thoughts on the Kelce battle here? I feel like both guys, obviously so, are going to be instrumental in this game.
They're going to be huge, and Jason Kelce has his work cut out for him. You talked about Chris Jones earlier. I think that's going to be one of those things we're going to talk about in these next matchups. And then you look at Travis Kelce. How do the Eagles stop him? And it's not necessarily every team seems like they think that they can stop Kelce or at least slow him down, and it really hasn't happened most of the season. So the question is, how do they stop Travis Kelce with what he does so well and with as on par and on line with Patrick Mahomes as he is? That's going to be a huge storyline in this game.
So many matchups to take a look at, guys. We're going to get into that coming up next. It's the ultimate Locked On Podcast Network crossover. Super Bowl 57 set. Eagles Chiefs on Sunday night in Arizona. This is the Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs podcast. And guys, today's episode is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. This is the ultimate Super Bowl crossover right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Eagles, Locked On Chiefs. I'm Louis DiBiase, joined by my co-host over at Locked On Eagles, Gino Camilleri. Also joining us, Locked On Chiefs hosts Chris Clark and Ryan Tracy. Got a couple days here before Eagles Chiefs on Sunday night. Going to be just a massive battle between, again, like I said, the two #1 seeds in these conferences, both 16-3, including the postseason. Arguably the two, I don't even think it's arguable anymore, the two finalists for MVP at quarterback with Mahomes and Hurts, Andy Reid versus Nick Sirianni. There's just so many great storylines, and it's such an even battle, I feel like. And it's going to come down to some key matchups. And I want to start with Chris. If there is one matchup, and again, it's not that black and white, but if there's one matchup that's going to decide this game between two #1 seeds to win it all, what's that one matchup?
You know, I think that you could say that it's going to be pass rush on the on the Eagles side going against the Chiefs. But the matchup I really want to watch, and I think that it could really dictate how this game goes, is Chris Jones versus the interior of the offensive line of Philadelphia. I mean, you could say it's Jason Kelce, but the reality is he's going to go against the guards as well. So I just say those interior three guys. And how does he affect this game? What does he do? Does he create the interior pass rush? And really, it's not just him. It's a matter of, is he going to get double teamed to open somebody else up? Because there are other guys on this team that have stepped up and gotten pressure when Jones is getting double teamed. And it's because they're having to, shade pressure his side. And that's, I think, a huge matchup in this game is Chris Jones versus that interior three and how it affects everybody else on the offensive line for Philadelphia.
Gino, is there another battle up front that you're looking at? Maybe more in the secondary? What are you looking at here in this game?
Yeah, just to touch on Chris's point, that I would say the Eagles love to leave their tackles on an island, so expect Chris Jones to receive a lot of those double teams. They're okay with leaving those guys on the edge. They're fine taking on those one-on-ones, rerouting a guy outside. But one thing that they hate is the interior pressure. I'm going to go to the other side of the ball and copy exactly what Chris said. I'm saying the Eagles' interior pressure against those three on the Chiefs' offensive line. Man, those are some bad dudes on that interior. You got, just guys that love to get physical, guys that love the ground and pound. Patrick Mahomes, he's been completing these short passes. It's not so much deep down the field, these touchdown passes. Well, these guys have been giving him time. He's able to sit in there, find the open spot on the field, and take advantage of teams, and that's how you lose to Patrick Mahomes. So the Eagles have to get on his doorstep. They have to get up right in his grill like they did to Tom Brady 5 years ago in that Super Bowl. It's not an easy test, but the Eagles have the guys. They have the depth. I think it'll probably be a stalemate for about 2.5 quarters, and then that depth might come into play in quarter 3, closer to quarter 4, where the Eagles can run 6, 7, 8 guys on the interior and just make you not want to play anymore. But we'll see. There's a reason Kansas City got here, and there's a reason that interior is as good as it has been down the stretch.
For sure. I think there's so many matchups up front. And again, it's obvious, but when you get to this final stage in the Super Bowl, and the Eagles know that, the Chiefs know it, Andy Reid knows it, Howie Roseman knows it, it is one up front. Ryan, what other matchups are you thinking that are going to be crucial in this game?
I love the fact, that we have to talk about all the trench matchups. A little bit of old school football, which is always near and dear to my heart. But along that line, it's also about an area of the field rather than a particular matchup. It's between the hashes for me. who can take advantage in that area the most? Can the Chiefs stop? Can they take away? It's funny, you usually talk about taking Travis Kelce away. The question for me is, can you take Jason away? Can you stop his climb to the second level, be able to stop that run and not get mashed between the tackles? Because we all know the Chiefs have chosen through a number of decisions to allow the run to hurt them in the middle, knowing they can rally to the ball and play team defense. They pay more attention to getting after the pass and guarding in the back. So I think that's going to be critical. And on the other side, it's about how do they choose to try to take Travis away? And I think the real question is, I know that you can have Chauncey out there. You can see what happens with Avonte. The question is, do you go nickel corner? Do you try to get linebacker help? Do you have to like rough him up and take what the Bengals have done in the past successfully, what sometimes the Chargers are able to do successfully in playing the physical game with Travis, but it all has to happen in that space between the hashes, and who can make up for it in that space, I think might determine this ballgame.
I totally agree. I was going to mention that matchup with Travis Kelce. Not that the Eagles severely outmatch the Chiefs in every other matchup, but I do feel like the Eagles have some other advantages where the Chiefs, I'm most nervous, can make the Eagles pay is that connection. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, as obvious as it sounds. I'm nervous that despite the Eagles being the number one passing defense this year, Kelce can take advantage of that zone coverage that Jonathan Gannon loves to run for his base defense. I wonder how he's going to attack this. I don't know if he's going to just say, this is what got us here, we're going to stick with that, or if he throws it out the window and says, look, Travis Kelce, if we can take him out, we're going to force them to beat us with Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Pacheco, and the rest of these skill position players. Does he throw Darius Slay on Kelce? Does he put James Bradbury there? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Does he bracket him? They've had success this year in going up against a team's number one target. The first game that comes to mind is when they erased Justin Jefferson week 2 against Minnesota, against Terry McLaurin the following week. But this is a different kind of player, guys. This is a tight end that eats in every area. So it's not as simple as, like, for Justin Jefferson, it was Darius Slay, go shadow him. This isn't that kind of player. So I don't know. I mean, Gino, what do you think? How do you think they're going to attack Kelce?
We mentioned it on the show yesterday that if you do go that route where you shadow him, you're probably going to play zone with everybody else and just play that Meg type of coverage where you just have somebody travel with him. But that would be so out of the MO of what Jonathan Gannon does. So I'm going to go to your point, Ryan, to where it'll probably be a mix of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and Avonte Maddox at times. And you'll probably see them interchanging them because at the same time, both of those guys do very well in coverage on the back end. I mean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, his best trait might be his side-to-side ability to cover in range. So are you going to take him and just place him at the line of scrimmage, allow him to shadow Travis Kelce and completely take him away on the back end? You're probably playing with one hand tied behind your back. So this is the ultimate chess battle. There's a reason these two teams are here, and there's a reason Travis Kelce is a unicorn, and nobody has found a reason or a way to stop. You know the reason. He's great, but nobody has found a way to stop him. And I think, Lou, the other part of that is the linebacker play for these two teams, because Ryan also mentioned it. Which team can rally to the football the best? There are a lot of players in this game that have that yard after contact and yard after the catch ability. Who's going to be able to make plays in the open field? Because if you're not rallying to the football, one tackle broken, see you in the end zone.
I thought that was crucial for the Eagles win against San Francisco. I thought they tackled really well in the open field. They're also going to have to make sure they're disciplined against Patrick Mahomes, even with a bad ankle. This is one of the best off-platform, outside of the script quarterbacks in NFL history. Chris, do you think that ankle is going to be closer to 100% in this game? Is Mahomes going to be full go? Will that decide how they play this game? What was their game plan against Cincinnati when he wasn't healthy? What are you thinking there when it comes to Mahomes' health?
I think he's going to be, I don't know, I'm not going to say 100%. I think he's going to be closer to 85 to 90%. It just seems like you watched what he did against the Bengals, and they definitely had a different approach. They kept him in the pocket more. He stayed in the pocket more until he had to do something at the end of the game where he got out. It sounds like, from everything I've heard and what it sounds like they're talking about, in Arizona, is they are trying early on in practice in Monday and Tuesday, have him run, have him see what he can do, see where he is, and then you're going to build your script and you're going to build your play calls off of what he is able to do. And if he's able to do his off-script stuff, then maybe you're going to throw in, 5 or 6 plays that you wouldn't have thrown in otherwise. If he isn't, then you go back to, maybe the Bengals game plan a little bit, and you're looking at a situation where he has to stay in the pocket. The thing about Mahomes, though, is even though he didn't have statistically a great game against Cincinnati. He did enough to get them to win. And it was a situation where he didn't play his normal game in normal style, but it was still good enough to beat Cincinnati and take them down to win at the very end.
It's going to be a huge matchup. Both quarterbacks going to have to do a lot in this one to win this game. Super Bowl 57 set for Sunday night. Eagles Chiefs in Arizona. This is the ultimate Super Bowl crossover show on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs got one more segment for you. On the other side, we've got predictions. All that and more right here on Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs. And guys, today's show is presented by Ultimate Football GM. You've heard me talk about this mobile game app, and I can't tell you how much fun we've had competing against our fellow Locked On NFL host. Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers was our Locked On NFL champion. Well, now it's your turn to compete with family and friends, but more on that later. Ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your football franchise? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. You'll manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through seasons, and lead your team to glory, trying to build a dynasty. With Ultimate Football GM, you're responsible for controlling the destiny of your franchise by hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of a season, all in this challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. We've created a Locked On League. Like I said, it's been so much fun. Get your friends and family involved. Locked On Eagles and Chiefs listeners, they get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps. It's LOCKEDON. Once again, it's Locked On. So make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today.
This episode is also brought to you by the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs, FanDuel. There's only one app that you are going to use this Super Bowl Sunday to put all your wagers in responsibly, that is. And it's America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. They just partnered with us at the beginning of the year. And the thing is, we've been using them forever. Behind the scenes, Lou and I have always been using FanDuel. Let's get real. It's the biggest one on the market. They have a robust amount of bets that you can make, props, lines, odds, all the information that you need. Download FanDuel today for Super Bowl 57 and get a no sweat first bet. What does that mean? You'll get $3,000. Yes, not one, not two, $3,000 back in bonus bets when your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from money line to point spread to who will score a touchdown. I think if you're a smart man, you'll probably bet Travis Kelce and Jalen Hurts anytime touchdowns this weekend on FanDuel Sportsbook. It's fast, easy, and safe. You put in your money, you'll get your money out securely. I use it all the time on the go when you're at home. You could use it on your phone. You can use it on your laptop. Wherever, just go to FanDuel.com/lockdown. That's LOCKEDON to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57 to get that $3,000 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockdown. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
This is the official Super Bowl crossover podcast of the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs. I'm Louis DiBiase, joined by Gino Camilleri, Chris Clark, and Ryan Tracy. Guys, make sure that you're not just subscribing to Locked On Eagles and Chiefs. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Today, the Locked On NFL podcast, Peacock and Williamson. We've got so much great coverage for you all throughout Super Bowl week on our network. It's going to be such an incredible game between the Eagles and Chiefs on Sunday. Guys, I hope, we're going to get into our predictions, but real quick, I just hope fans, even outside of Philly and Kansas City, just get a good game, because outside of, I know last year was kind of close, so was Chiefs 49ers, but since it feels like Eagles Patriots, they haven't had this classic Super Bowl that I feel like people will remember for the rest of their lives. It's been a while.
It has been quite a while. I will say, Chiefs fans are going to remember the 49ers game for the rest of their lives, mainly because it wasn't close for the first part of the game, but then you get into the fourth quarter and Kansas City goes and scores all those points. So I agree with you. It's been a while since you've had a full, really good game. I'm hoping for that as well.
I just hope it's the players that decide it. Let's hope that it's a nice, clean game and the laundry stays in the back pockets.
For sure.
Absolutely. Wait,
So
Roger
guys,
Goodell said that the officiating was as good as ever yesterday.
That's
Are
right.
you kidding me?
That's
This should be an all-timer, Ryan.
Let's hope. Yeah, I agree with that, Ryan. Let's hope the refs don't get too involved and just Chiefs win, Eagles win. May the best man win it. Who do we think is going to win it, guys? Let's get into our predictions right now. According to FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network, the Eagles they're at -1.5, Chiefs +1.5. So pretty much a pick 'em. Are we just taking our teams? What are we thinking here for maybe not just like straight out money line who wins the game, but also, maybe some of these bets. What are some bets you like too as well in this game?
I'm not starting. Somebody
I'll go ahead and start. I think that you look at this game, and I think Kansas City is in a position, and we've talked about this a little bit already. This is a dynasty defining game. And one of the things that's really stood out to me watching this roster talk at the Super Bowl and watching everything that's going on in the Super Bowl, Kansas City seems really laid back. I'm not saying the Eagles aren't, but Kansas City seems like they're just calm, cool, collected. I'm wondering how that's going to play out on Sunday. And I'm not saying that I expect them to be cool, calm, and collected when they come out on the field. I'm just saying, is this going to be a very big moment for all the players that haven't played? And that goes on both teams. You have all these rookies for Kansas City. They're playing huge snaps. Philly has a lot of guys that haven't played in the Super Bowl either. This is going to be a big game for all of them. When I start looking at some of the bets I like, Patrick Mahomes going over, 285, I think is what I saw it at last. I like that. I think that he's thrown for 320 yards over 11 times this season. It's a different secondary, obviously, with Philadelphia, a different game. But if Kansas City is going to win this game, Patrick Mahomes has to have a big one. Has to have a big game.
For sure. Gino, do you like any bets with Jalen Hurts in this game? I know, of course, anytime touchdown. Do you think he's going to throw the ball a lot, run? Is that going to lead to an Eagles win? What do you think, man?
Going off of Chris's point to the rookies taking a lot of snaps, well, those rookies, especially at the cornerback position, have two guys that are pretty good football players in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I don't know who yet, but I'm taking one of them to go for 75 and a touchdown. I don't know if it's going to be AJ or Devontae. I know the Eagles are going to have to run the ball. I think that comes in a culmination of all four of the guys, Jalen Hurts and those three backs. But I think they target one of these receivers. They pick the matchup that they like between those corners, and one of those guys is going to have a big day in the air. Ultimately, does it get them the win? That I don't know.
Ryan, my man, final predictions. What are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm harking back to the old days.
I love it. He had it queued up.
Beautiful.
Maybe that'll get it right. At the end of the day, I think there's a line out there, 150 yards for the Eagles on the ground. I think they get that. I think unless they get 3-4 multiple 15-plus yard plays, get those chunks, I think that actually hurts them in the end, be able to put up total points by being on the ground that much. I think a couple of guys that you mentioned, AJ, that's going to be the matchup in the pass game that really concerns the Chiefs. I do expect them to bracket and give them all they can physically up front and understand that those rookies are going to get beat physically, but have that safety coverage over the top. But if you can still manage 75 at a touch, I think they're in good shape. It's Hargrave for me that is the X factor. He's got maybe the most elite interior three that he's got to go against. I don't expect him to have a 5-pressure game like he did last time. But if he can get one of the crucial ones, that might be the turning point. At the end of the day, I think this is a slugfest, and I love it. This reminds me of something that hopefully they don't have to run Wasp at the end of the game to get it done, like another team had to. But in the end, I think it's back and forth, probably into the fourth quarter, but I still got the Chiefs taking it 30-27.
Ryan's got props, so I'm going to pull out my Super Bowl ring.
Oh,
that
there you go.
I feel like I had to. He had the hat. I got to pull out the ring. I'm going to go Eagles win. I think they're going to get this job done. I think it's going to be a classic. I know, Ryan, you mentioned it might be a slugfest. I think the Eagles are definitely going to emphasize running the football. But regardless, even if they run the football, they churn out explosive plays on the ground. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this football game. Right now, the over-under, I think, was at 50, right, from FanDuel?
50?
Yes. 50 and a half.
Hammer that over. Yeah.
I'm going to take the over. I think you guys agree, right?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Slam that over on that one.
It could be like a 30-point fourth quarter, and I wouldn't even bat an eye between these two teams, if we're being honest.
Absolutely. It's going to be, I think, a classic. I think this is going to be one of those Super Bowls that people remember for a long time. Enjoy the game Sunday night in Arizona. Eagles, Chiefs, Mahomes, Hurts, Sirianni, Reed, the Kelce brothers, going to be a classic. We've got one more show each, though, for you. Locked on Eagles and Locked on Chiefs on Friday. Make sure you subscribe to each podcast wherever you get the show, on YouTube as well. Make sure you subscribe to the entire Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On NFL, Locked On Sports Today, Peacock and Williamson, all that and more. Some awesome Super Bowl coverage. Guys, thanks so much. Any final thoughts? I'll start with Chris.
I'm just looking forward to a good game. I think that's already been said, and I know it has. I'm looking forward to a fun game. I'm looking forward to, refs not really having a big impact on this game. And quite frankly, the other thing I'm really looking forward to is who steps up that we haven't really talked about. I know you mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster earlier. You mentioned Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Can those guys step up? Is Sky Moore going to be a guy that has another big play for Kansas City on offense? And then you look at the defense. Are one of those rookie corners going to be able to get their hands on the ball and get an interception? Or is it L'Jarius Sneed? I mean, there's so many different players that we haven't talked about that are going to play huge keys in this game, but there's not enough time to talk about them all. It's going to be a fascinating game, and I cannot wait.
Ryan, last thoughts. Any final props you want to throw out here before the show ends?
No, I shot it all when I brought that one out. So the thing that I look forward to most is both these teams showing off their strengths. I think they do kind of match up really nicely in terms of meshing together. Who's got a little bit of advantage here, a little bit of advantage there, back and forth, back and forth. For me, it ends up being about execution. I think that might lend itself towards the Chiefs just because of the experience level, just because of having been there a little bit more recently. I don't know that in the end that pays off. So I'm looking forward to a good game. And I think what we've shown here today, the four of us, I think will echo through the rest of the fan bases too, that there's mutual respect there. Both these teams have earned it. And I don't think it's going to turn into anything like we saw craziness after some past championships. So here's to a clean game, again, with no flags, knock on wood. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Gino, my man, send us off.
Yeah, I'll finish it with this, guys. I don't give predictions because I'm never right. I just know that at the end of the day, if the Eagles do lose this game, there are a lot of people in Philadelphia that will be very happy that it was to Andy Reid. And there's a lot of mutual respect, as you said. And at the end of the day, this could be a dynasty defining moment for Kansas City, or one that potentially sparks another one. That's the great thing about the NFL, is that these storylines write themselves. It's the best reality television you'll ever get, the highest rated viewing of any event on earth, Super Bowl 57. And we have the luxury to see both of our teams go and play in it. Hope it's good. Hopefully it's just well executed all around, and people get a lot of teach tape at the end that you can go and show high schoolers and college kids, this is how the game should be played. I think you'll get a lot of that this weekend.
Thank you again, everybody, for making Locked On Eagles and Locked On Chiefs your first listen each and every day. Make sure you also subscribe to the Locked On NFL podcast and get daily conversations on the biggest NFL stories, plus in-depth analysis on the biggest games, including the final game this weekend. And on Monday, Local Insiders always cover the weekend with our game recap episodes. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. For Gino Camilleri, Ryan Tracy, Chris Clark, I'm Louis DiBiase. Enjoy the big game on Sunday, everybody.